You are listening to We Are the Compassionate Revolution. I'm your podcast host, therapist, author, boundaries guide, Molly Moon. If you are a compassionate person and you want to know your worth, set better boundaries, live from your truth, and operate in your fullness, then I am so glad you've joined us. You ready? Let's get started. There's a voice inside so many of us kind and compassionate people that whispers things like, "Who do you think you are?" Or, "You're not ready. You're not good enough either. You're going to mess this up." And that inner voice sounds like truth. It feels like it must be true. And it causes us to shrink back, silence our voice, and not move into the fullness of who we are and what we're here on this planet to do. So in today's episode, we're going to talk about how to recognize that critical voice, name the fear for what it is, and take heart-led action anyway, even when you're scared. Because the world doesn't need us to be perfect. The world needs us to show up. And what prompted these thoughts was a conversation I had with a really talented friend of mine. She was invited to take a leadership role at a big thing and was sharing with me how terrifying it was, even though the event was totally in line with her passion, her mission, her values, her gifts, her profession. She wants events like this to exist in the world. She wants to speak up for what matters. And that's us, right? We want to serve. We're passionate about the issues closest to our heart, and we have talents and abilities and things to offer. And also, we're usually dealing with a ton of fear. Not fear from the outside. In the case of my friend, for example, nobody was opposing her. She was actually being invited in, encouraged to take the leadership role. I'm talking today about the fear that we experience that comes from the inside in ourselves. That little voice in our head that whispers, "Who do you think you are?" You know that voice? The one that says, "Really? You want to do that? You think you're important or something?" A voice that cuts you down, makes you shrink, makes you feel like you must have a big ego for being willing to put yourself out there, or to take up a leadership role, or to speak on a stage, or to claim any power or authority. As if doing so makes you a bad person or narcissistic, right? And we don't want to be that. But even if that's not something we're worried about, there's still always the general terror of putting ourselves out there and making a fool of ourselves. I mean, say you're going to speak or lead. Well, what happens if you don't get it right? What if you screw up? And oh my goodness, the humiliation and the fear of what would happen if people don't like what you offer. Can you relate? Because after my conversation with my friend, which was so good, and she's so cool, I thought, I want to talk about this on the podcast because her experience is shared by so many of us, including myself. And we've got to make this a topic of regular conversation because otherwise, we're just all walking around thinking like we're the only weird people in the world who feel this way. We assume something must be wrong with us, we're broken, and we're all alone in this experience, and that is such bullshit. One of the biggest gifts of having been a therapist is that you get to see behind closed doors just how shared these inner experiences are that so many of us, especially compassionate people, have. That most of us carry fear and shame about wanting to get bigger than we've been told we're allowed to be. And it makes sense, really, because, we have fear and shame just about having basic human needs. So, of course, we're going to have fear and shame about wanting to lead, about wanting to take up more space, about wanting to step outside the box or use our voice in a different way. But we don't even know it's a thing other people struggle with, too. So let's talk about it. Let's take the shame out of it. Let's get curious. Let's have an open conversation about fear and maybe My hope is you will leave this episode with a new way of approaching fear, a gentler, more empowering one, maybe even with more permission to step into your voice, your gifts, your power. So, fear. Fear for compassionate people hits us weirdly, doesn't it? Because it doesn't hit about everything, and that's what makes it so confusing, because you'll find you are allowed to do some things without much fear, maybe no fear at all. You can take up space in some ways with no fear. You can use your voice in some ways with no fear. You can lead in some ways with no fear. And yet in other ways, no. In other ways, fear will rise up and make that thing nearly impossible to do. And I'm going to give you an example from my own life just to show you how illogical this is and yet how absolutely real it is. So, I've been drawing since I was old enough to hold a crayon, and I'm not an amazing artist. I just like to cartoon. As a teenager, I worked in a shop where I made art on cookies with frosting. Like, people would come in and say, I want you to draw my son out on the lake fishing, and they'd hand me a photograph of it, and I'd set that photograph up, and then I'd make the cartoon of it with frosting on a big cookie. That was a really fun job. When I was a young mom, I hand-painted art all over the walls of the house for my kids' bedrooms. I didn't even draw it ahead of time. I literally just free-handed, no fear. As a therapist, I cartooned mental health worksheets, program brochures, art therapy stuff, never an ounce of fear. I even drew an entire cartoon series on acceptance and commitment therapy for my grad students when I was an adjunct professor. No fear. It was easy. It was fun. But check this out. When I felt called inside of me to draw simple cartoons about mental health and boundaries and post them online on social media, fear stopped me in my tracks. I felt terror, every time I thought about doing that. And I wanted to do it. It kept coming up in my heart like I knew I was supposed to do it. But I didn't. For years. Why? Well, not because I was scared of drawing. I draw all the time. Not because I was scared of drawing badly, because I draw badly all the time. It was the stage. Putting myself out there publicly, of my own volition, without someone else's permission, to an audience that was unknown. That felt dangerous. And you've seen the comments under some posts on social media. I mean, it can be quite vicious. People can be mean. So when I thought about making something for public consumption and hitting publish on it, I had a visceral response, a physical nervous system response of, oh, hell no, you cannot make me do that. No way. There's something vulnerable, isn't there, about doing something on purpose, about doing something of your own free will and agency, choosing to share something from the heart, something that means something to you. Because the energy of it is essentially saying to the world, hi, I'm a somebody, and I have something to say. Ooh, that's an empowered action right there. But this is a thing that people with big egos or narcissistic tendencies, they don't struggle with this problem. They assume the stage. They assume everyone will love them and should. They assume they should take up space. They assume they should share their opinion because after all, it's the truth, right? And they assume everyone should believe it. And we compassionate people, we see that kind of energy and we cringe. Some of us are like, oh, please engage in some self-reflection. Please stop taking up all the space. Please read the room. Because we know that approach is not healthy. We can feel it. We know that stance is not pro-relational. It's ego-centered. But my friends, I want to say something with gentleness here. The thing is, our approach is equally unhealthy. Their grandiosity is not doing the world any favors, but we tend to get stuck in shame-based thinking, fear-based thinking, and that takes us to the opposite extreme. And that's not doing the world any favors either. For example, we compassionate people, we over-question everything. We wonder if it's okay to even be who we are, much less to feel what we feel, think what we think. Even to the point of asking, why do I want to do this thing that's in me to do? Why would I want to put myself out there? Well, what does that mean? And then, by the way, if we have people in our lives filling us with doubt or putting us down, it gets even worse because we are already wondering if we're being selfish or full of ourselves or too much, and then they agree, and then we really freeze. But for me, when it came to drawing cartoons and posting them online, I stayed frozen for, 3, 4, 5 years, maybe longer. It was a while. And at that time, I had the full support and love of everybody I knew. So I cannot blame my inaction on anyone else. It was me. I was terrified. The DNA programming in my bones said, do not put yourself out there at the end. Which is wild, right? Because most of you know me now from those very cartoons. That is how we first crossed paths. It occurs to me, by the way, if you are listening and you're like, what cartoons? I'm so confused. You can find me on Facebook at Becoming Boundaried or on Instagram at Boundaried Bootcamp, and the links are in the show notes. You can look at it later, and that will help catch you up. But for most of you, as you know, I did eventually draw and post those cartoons. I did it. But oh my goodness, it took so much inner work for me to give myself permission to start. And the whole time I was doing it, this voice in my head is like, is this allowed? Who do you think you are? Also, it's so not safe. This isn't safe. You shouldn't do it. People aren't going to be happy. People are going to be mean. That's the inner voice so many of us compassionate people live with, the voice of the programming. It's just terrified no matter which way we turn. Because we can't win for losing, because we've been programmed to stay small. And as soon as we try to step outside of the prescribed box, the voice of fear starts talking. Like I said before, don't expect it to be logical because it won't necessarily be. It doesn't always make sense from the outside. Because it will let you have some power. It will allow you to do some things. For example, you can be a physician, or you could hold a senior leadership position at work and still go home to a miserable relationship where you're walked all over and you're too scared to do anything about it. So you can operate in your power from 9 to 5, but yet be completely disempowered when you enter your own home, believing that you don't deserve better and that you're out of line for wanting any changes. Because your work title or your medical degree or whatever it is you have in the workplace that gives you permission to lead or make decisions in that area, the little box you're in allows you to have power or authority or agency in that specific role, in that specific sphere, but not in your personal relationship. Notice the pattern. As long as someone else gives you permission, as long as your actions are done within the allowed box you're given, it's okay. But if it's something where no one is giving you permission, or it's an action that somebody will disapprove of or cause someone to have some feelings, here comes the fear, the shame, the programming to keep the people pleased. Do you see how it works? And that programming is what my friend was bumping up against as she was looking at leading this event, because the voice inside says, you're allowed to have leadership over here in this area, but no, not over here. That is too much. Who do you think you are? And here's what I've noticed, and see if this is true for you. I have found we compassionate people will often experience that terror and anxiety anytime we find ourselves stepping more into our truth, more into who we are and what we're here to be. Because that action we are wanting to take usually is something that requires us to step out of the limiting little box we've been told we have to operate from. So, in a way, it's almost like the fear is a sign we're doing something right. But, of course, that's not how we're taught to see it. Plus, physically, it just feels like general terror. It feels horrible. And what is the natural behavioral response to such feelings? Easy. It's to make the feelings stop. And we can make them stop quite easily if we will shrink back to the box of keeping the people pleased. If we will listen to the voice that says, stop trying to be something bigger than what you are. If we get away from whatever action or goal or idea we were gonna do that makes us feel that fear. Okay, so what do we do though? Those of us who are waking up, because we know we're not supposed to stay in this box of keeping the people pleased. But we are also biological creatures living in a body that's easily flooded with fight, flight, freeze, fawn. And stepping out of the box causes a chemical response that honestly can nearly incapacitate us. One of the biggest missing pieces for compassionate people as we heal and come into our power is boundaries, because we've been trained not to have any. And I've experienced that not only in my own life, but with tons of people I've worked with as a therapist, fellow counselors, physicians, teachers, social workers, people who care. We know we need boundaries, but how? And then if we try to have some, we feel selfish, guilty, or mean. That's why I have such a strong focus on boundaries, because boundaries are integral to our empowerment. But people like us need to discover our boundaries in a way that actually works for our compassionate hearts. And that's what my Boundaries Breakthrough mini course is all about. It's just $19, it's packed with value, and it's so easy to do. You can get the Boundaries Breakthrough mini course at boundaried.com. That's boundaried with a D.com. The link is in the show notes, and I hope you have a blast in the mini course because it was really fun to make for you. Here's what I found that makes all the difference. For me, the way to move forward is to steep myself in the truth. What is the truth? The truth is, I am here on this planet for a reason. And the truth is, you are too. The truth is, I have a message to share. I have a purpose and a mission and a calling. And so do you. The truth is, the box of keeping the people pleased, that is not my home. The limitations of that box, they are not my true boundaries. And that box is not yours either. And we got to hold this tight. We have to know our truth, and we have to know our true boundaries. Because if we don't, fear will always win. We have to know the truth. This is good humility, by the way. This is empowering humility to know that we are just little humans. We, in and of ourselves, aren't strong enough to fight with chemicals of fear. I mean, I can't wrestle fear out of the driver's seat of my life. I have to have something more compelling than fear driving me. I have to have something that I'm holding on to that is stronger than fear, that allows me to move forward despite the fears. And that something is my truth. And when I have that, I am then able to lead my nervous system instead of it leading me. And I'm able to lead my nervous system with love and honor for it in the process. And when we see and understand things that way, everything gets a lot less scarier, even the fear. The fear is just our nervous system, that's all. And I like to think of my nervous system as a friend, and you can too. We can love our nervous systems and lean into them and whisper, hey, sweet one, I know you're scared, but we are safe enough. We're safe enough. And then we can follow that with, and this is what we're going to do. This action right here, this new thing right here. And yeah, we might screw it up. We might look like a fool doing it, but even then, we're safe enough. And we're going to learn. No matter how it goes, we're going to learn and gain wisdom from it. So in that way, it's going to be a win. You would be surprised to find out how happy our nervous system is at finally being addressed on a personal level. It's really sweet. So what happens, by the way, if you do screw up, if you don't get it perfect? Or if someone is not pleased, someone comes and says, ugh, you're terrible. I don't like you. I don't like what you're doing. Well, you want to know one thing that helped me tremendously? Letting go of the goal of not looking like a fool. Because I realized, Molly, at some point, someone will think you're a fool. No matter what you do. Someone's not going to like me, no matter how I show up. Someone's not going to like me if I do show up or if I don't. In fact, if I show up perfectly, it's going to make even more people not like me because they're dealing with their own insecurities and jealousies, and that's just how they know to deal with it, to attack somebody else. So, should my goal in my life be to not look like a fool? Should my life goal be trying to make everybody happy? Because if that's my goal, I'm never going to do anything. How many thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people have seen these little boundaries cartoons of mine? I've had so many people write me and say the cartoons changed their life, and they didn't even ever come work with me in any of the deeper stuff. But it's more than that. Oh, I'm getting chills. If I hadn't worked through the fear that was blocking me from making and posting the boundaries cartoons, I would have never been able to move into the next step, which was creating and offering my bootcamp program. Because creating the Boundaries Bootcamp, that took way more guts than posting cartoons did. But I did it because it was in me to do, because I knew I was supposed to do it. I knew compassionate people have got to be empowered, and we never will be if we don't know our true boundaries. And how many lives have been changed through that action? My chills have chills now. How many wonderful, compassionate people have been set free and are now operating in this world at a much higher level because they know their true boundaries. I can't even count how many, and none of it would have happened if my fear had stayed in the driver's seat. And I'm sharing this vulnerably because it's really easy to look at someone who's doing things and assume they must not be afraid. It's really easy to put people on pedestals. We've been trained to do it. So in case I'm on a pedestal with you, let me take this opportunity right now to climb down from it and tell you I'm 100% a human in a body with a nervous system just like you. With a full installment of the disempowering programming just like you. So if I can do this, you can do this. And as we do this, we show others it is doable. It's not only doable, it's worth it. We have to release the goal of not making a fool out of ourselves. We have to release the goal of keeping all the people pleased. We have to release the goal of waiting to do what we know we're supposed to do until fear is completely gone. Because it's never going to be gone. We have to be willing to step into who we know we're supposed to be and what we know we're supposed to be doing. What is the next step on your healing journey? What is the thing you need to be doing now in order to help you grow into whatever it is you're supposed to be doing later? With the light that we have to take that next step, even if we fall over and look ridiculous to people. And there's incredible power in that willingness to take a step forward, even if it means falling over and looking silly. Because in accepting the possibility of someone not liking it or someone mocking us, hey, whatever, you're now moving forward into becoming who you are. Why would you sacrifice your growth just to keep someone from mocking you who will probably mock you no matter what you do? We can survive that. We're safe enough. We're willing to be a fool if that's what it takes. And that is the moment when your fear will move out of the driver's seat of your life to the passenger seat in your decision-making process, in your choices, in your actions. That's when fear stops being in charge. Now, is fear still there? Yeah. Oh yeah. Talking very loudly, especially at first. Trying to convince you repeatedly to let it drive again. But stop thinking that means you're doing something wrong. Because you're not. You're retraining yourself. It's in the doing of it, whatever it is for you, it's in the doing of it that your nervous system learns, Well, would you look at that? We didn't die. Maybe we are safe enough. That's how the sense of safety builds. And honestly, our fear is really thankful and really happy to see us do this because it doesn't want to have to drive. It never wanted to drive. It's just that nobody else was in charge around here. Somebody had to do it. Our fear loves to see us come into ourselves and grow and become. I am telling you, the day will come for you when your fear thanks you for finally showing up and giving it the help that it needed. Also, just a side note, the things that used to terrify me, I'm no longer afraid of them. I'm living a life now that would have given me a panic attack just 10 years ago. But now my fear is scared of the next big thing I haven't done yet. I know what's around the corner for me. I hear it all the time when I'm deep in meditation, and my fear, when I come out, if I think about it, my fear is like, I think that's going to be too much. Yeah, that's too big. No. Let's just quit now. There's still time. You could run and hide. Can we just go back to being a regular therapist again, please? But guess what? That's just what fear does. Its intentions are good. It's afraid because it's fear, and fear is fearful. It's just doing its job. But meaning goes deeper. My purpose, my calling, my truth, my mission, that runs stronger. And that's the key. We hold on to our mission. We hold on to our truth. And by the way, at first, if you're worried because you're thinking, I don't know what my truth is. I don't have a mission yet. I think I'm here for a reason, but I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Don't worry and know this. The essence of all of our missions is simply to become who we are. And as that happens, as we heal and step into our true boundaries, then the details of whatever you're supposed to do in the next season of your life begin to come to you with more specificity. The initial process of our awakening, of our becoming, at first it is one of healing our wounds and getting set up structurally with our true boundaries. And then from that place, we start being given the details of what we're here to do in the compassionate revolution. So cool, right? But don't forget, we don't have to get rid of our fear in order to do any of that. Getting rid of our fear is not the goal anymore. The goal becomes to lovingly do it anyways. Whatever that next right thing is we know we're supposed to do it, to give ourselves permission to heal. Permission to step into our true boundaries, permission to take up our rightful space, permission to show up for our lives, to show up for ourselves, even as our voice shakes, especially as our voice shakes. Because what happens if people like us, compassionate people, succumb to the fear? We'll get exactly what's happening in the world right now. We need people like you. We need people like me. We need people like us to leave our little boxes of keeping the people pleased. We need to heal, to move into our true boundaries, to move through fear and show up for our lives, to become. That's what courage is. Staying safe is one plan. That is one way to live your life, and you can choose that plan. There's a little box just for you, and you will have to stay in it, and fear will dominate your whole entire life if you stay in that box, but you won't have to feel it quite as much because you'll avoid it by staying out of its way, and you do that by staying in the box of keeping the people pleased. Or you can choose a different plan, one where you become you. But here's the deal on that one. You are not made to fit in a little box of keeping the people pleased. That is not your truth. So if you choose the life plan of becoming, you will have to leave that box. And doing that will feel scary at first. But that's how we change the world, my friends. We compassionate people are here to lead the way. If we can't do it, who can? We have to show others that it's okay. It's okay to become who you are. It's more than okay. It's infinitely better. It's like caterpillar to butterfly better. And we got this. You got this. Stop waiting for fear to go away so that you can do the thing. It's not going to go away. It just needs to move spots. And that is so doable because it's not even supposed to be driving. You're the driver here. Get in the driver's seat and then do the thing. Not because it's easy, not because you feel perfectly confident. Do it because you're called. Do it because we need you. And know that you are not alone. I'm right here with you. So are all the rest of us. We are a movement, my friend, and we're doing this together. And before you move on with your day as we wrap up here, I want to invite you to speak some truth over yourself with me. If it feels right, you can place a hand on your heart, maybe even close your eyes. All right, well, keep them open if you're driving. And say this out loud with me, or just breathe it in as I speak it over you. I am allowed to take up space because I give myself permission to do so. I am allowed to take action towards what I'm here to do because I give myself permission to do so. It's okay if I don't get it perfect or if I look silly to someone. I am safe enough and healed enough to handle that. And staying stuck or frozen is not in my highest good. Perfection is not my goal. Becoming is. And I can learn and grow and become. And I will, because that's what I'm here to do. Notice how that feels in your body. And yeah, the fear might still be there, probably so. But so is your truth. You are here to become, and you don't need anyone's permission but your own. My compassionate friend, I am so glad you're with us. We are the compassionate revolution. We are the change the world needs, and we're becoming it. If you loved this episode, please share it with a friend or give this podcast a 5-star review. I'd appreciate it so much. And if you'd like to get practical and work with me more closely on boundaries, you can come visit me at boundaried.com. That's boundaried with a D.com for amazing resources. Because this is how we do it. One action at a time. We are moving into our power. And I'm so proud to be in this movement with you.